Welcome back to This is VANCOLOUR. It's all about Gen Z tonight, but where do they even land politically? Are they tuned in or totally tuned out? Here to talk about it, an elder Zoomer. He's the executive director of the Conservative Party of BC, Angelo Isidorou. Angelo, nice to see you. Thanks for being on the show tonight.
Thanks for having me as an elder Zoomer, just by a hair.
Right? Yeah, you're in that group. Now, I don't want to, completely homogenize generations. Obviously, everyone is an individual. But if we were to look at Gen Z as a voting bloc, where do they land politically?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because this topic is sort of one of my favorites, just looking at, again, super broad stereotypical attributes of generations. Gen Z is probably one of the most polarized generations. And it's based off the fact that, the baby boomers and Gen Xers had a monoculture to some degree. There are obviously subcultures, but they had sort of collective ideas they would unite behind. I think because of social media, we've all gotten into echo chambers now with Gen Z. So a lot of data shows, whether it's in the German elections, in the South Korean elections, US elections, even our elections, there's a huge divide in Gen Z.
Oh, within Gen Z?
Within Gen Z.
Okay.
Gen Z, males are hard to the right. They're populist right. We saw that with the AfD in Germany.
The chuds.
The chuds, as we call them, right? Women are completely the opposite. They are hard to the left populism.
Interesting.
So overall, it is a populist generation. It is a cynical generation raised on, their parents fighting over the 2008 crash, going through COVID. It is a generation of people that really do not ascribe to the status quo. So they're fundamentally populist.
Yeah.
And within that,
so they share that in common.
They share that. They fundamentally share that they are populist. Now, there are left-leaning populists, like your Emily Lowen, who was just on your show.
Yes. And there's the right-leaning populists like yourself. Interesting contrast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's some interesting similarities even there in terms of anti-elitism, going after billionaires, wanting sort of a system change, not focused on brokerage politics of, let's just fight over marginal tax cuts. I think that cynicism has become prevalent even in our own elections. When you look at the federal election, it was really a fight between young Canadians and old Canadians. Old Canadians were elbows up. They voted for Mark Carney. They own homes. And young Canadians voted not overall, but mostly conservative because they wanted that change. So overall, we're seeing some really interesting trends with Gen Z. The New York Times, just the last piece, the New York Times just released an article showing that it's a more religious generation than other generations.
Interesting.
They go to church more than Gen X and baby boomers.
Is Gen Z engaged in politics, though? Because, there's that long-running stereotype of young people aren't really reliable voters or they're kind of tuned out. Are we seeing any differences there compared to previous generations?
So it depends how we define engaged, right?
Right.
Do they like and retweet and engage online? I would say definitely. We're seeing that with, Nick Fuentes being the number one podcaster, at least briefly. Or on the flip side, we're seeing this huge surge of support for Mamdani, who's running for mayor in New York. So you are seeing that engagement. But is it the classical engagement of when you think of an old campaign or old politics, you think of people lining up to do phone banking together, to go door knocking together? I'm not sure we're seeing that. I'm not sure we're seeing that type of engagement. But it's a generation where you have one half of them that are very vocal about climate change and about housing. And you have another side that's very vocal about freedom of speech and culture. So they are very engaged. They're very out there. They're in the world. It's just different from how it would typically be.
So what I'm hearing is Gen Z is being burdened with a lot of crises. There are overlapping crises, as we even say in this province. And the solutions that they're looking for is not just marginal changes. They're looking for, very extensive reforms.
Yes.
But they split on gender lines mostly, is what you're saying.
Yes, they split greatly on gender lines. They overall, again, they split they're completely the opposite of baby boomers, but along those gender lines, they split, but they both want system change.
Really quickly then, how do Gen Z women and Gen Z men then get along if their politics are so polarized?
They don't. That's the answer is they don't get along, which is why we have a lot of data, public data shows that actually dating has gotten worse for young Gen Zers because they don't get along. They're very ideologically different. Again, because these algorithms put us in our own little monoculture. It's very, very differing views on everything.
This sounds very dystopian. Is this the dystopian generation?
I think so. And I think it goes back to the social media. I think it's because that algorithm feeds you what you want to see. And you sort of just get deeper and deeper into one hole. And gone are the days of, you're a lefty and I'm on the right. And overall, we agree on 90% of things. We just disagree on marginal tax cuts. Like, that's over. And now the other side is evil. There's an absolutist morality to Gen Z, where my side are the good guys, those guys are the bad guys. There's a dangerous precedent for sure. Very dangerous. But that's where we're at.
Angelo, I appreciate your time tonight, and I appreciate you illuminating us on the politics of Gen Z. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Folks, that was the executive director of the Conservative Party of BC, Angelo Isidorou. We're going to record some overtime with Angelo and Vancouver mayoral candidate Karim Alam to talk about political culture.
I think, we've left young men behind, and I think that figures like Nick Fuentes are going to be massively popular. And I think that is going to lead to certain terrible ideas, in my opinion, being shared about different groups and different religions and different people. And I think that's only going to get worse.
You can find This Is VANCOLOUR wherever you listen to your podcast for that. Now, after some business, why is Gen Z so anxious, so angsty, maybe even angry? Nina Savage is here to spill the Z up next.